Hey everyone, welcome to the Royce Reports. I am your host, Royce, and on this channel we talk mostly Xbox related topics, but I do dabble in other gaming related news and reviews. But today's actually different. Today I'm going to be delving into what I think are the biggest disappointments of 2022. And this isn't just Xbox, this is other things like movies and TV shows and just entertainment in general. And that's what I want to talk about. I know that this channel seems to be moving towards a top 10 style reviews or topics and discussions, but I am just doing this because it's the end of the year and there's not really any news going on. So without further ado, let's talk about it. All right, so 2022 was filled with a lot of stinkers and a lot of disappointments, and some crazy stuff actually happened during this year. And so I have 10 topics that I'm going to be talking about. So let's get into the top 10 biggest disappointments and fails in entertainment of 2022. And what better way to start this off than with number 10 being Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars. Now, we've all heard about this. We all talked about this enough, and it was very, very controversial once it happened. But I want to talk about this because I never talked about it before, and this is my first time talking about it. But we got to see that Will Smith isn't the perfect family man that he's been striving to be in the media, right? So Will Smith has, for some reason, this idea of wanting to show people that he is this big family man, that all of his kids love him, and that they're all in all these different projects, and they're in this music industry, and his wife is a famous actress, and they're all happy and go lucky. But it comes out that that's not true at all. We know that Jaden and Willow have problems of their own, and we know that Jada Pinkett ended up cheating on Will Smith and revealed that to the world at her own Red Table interview, and kind of blindsided him and all of us with that information. And we also got that meme of him crying. This is it's not okay to be in that type of relationship, to be in that environment, and it's not okay to fake it. And that's the thing I want to talk about, is that Will, you gotta understand, and everyone that is in that situation, that it's okay to have problems. It's okay to not have the perfect family. That's not what you need to strive for. What you need to strive for is that happiness that brings you guys together. And by forcing your kids into the movie industry and into the music industry when they don't really want it, and by being with someone who is very, very deceitful, and has even said on camera that she doesn't love Will Smith as much as she loved Tupac. Like, that is such, I can't imagine hearing that from someone that you're married to, that, hey, yeah, if Tupac was still alive, I'd still be with him, not with this fucking clown over here. And I think all that boiled up to a breaking point, and that kind of flew out of him, and it made him look very, very bad in the limelight. And I feel bad for Chris Rock, because that's not something that, you know, you got to deal with. It's not okay to assault someone in front of millions of people. I know that Chris Rock's joke was very distasteful, and it wasn't very funny, but it's the Oscars. It is they're just trying to entertain. I understand that the joke was just offensive to many people, but you gotta give and take here. You gotta understand that it's just a joke, and that you gotta move on. He won the Oscar for Best Actor that year, which he's trying to get for a very long time, and now he has it. But at the same time, he's barred from the Oscars for the next 10 years. So whatever, he got what he wanted, and now he could be happy. Maybe not, we'll see. Number 9 is the state of Pokemon. Now, I want to preface this with the fact that I don't think Pokemon is bad by any means. I grew up with Pokemon. I collected Pokemon cards. I stopped watching it around the May and Max era. And so it's been a long time for me since I've watched Pokemon. but I have played Pokemon. I have played Pokemon up until Sword and Shield, and I thought that game was absolutely terrible. But in 2022, we ended up getting 2 different Pokemon releases, which was Pokemon Arceus and Pokemon Violet and Scarlet. And a lot of people love Violet and Scarlet. Some people are saying it's the best Pokemon in a really long time. But the thing that I want to talk about is not the fact that these games are good or bad, is the design of them. When you look at these games, they look absolutely terrible. And I know that graphics are not what makes a game good or bad. But at the same time, you got to understand what is backing this group at Game Freak. There's 160 plus employees there. So they're a very small team, and they are constantly working on Pokemon. But the thing about Pokemon is that it is the highest grossing IP ever. Nothing is ever going to top Pokemon. It is making so much money. It is ridiculous. And you're telling me that you can't use that money to support that team, to make them bigger, to allow them to test the waters in other ways and not just continue with the same formula? And this shows that because there is no competition with Pokemon, there is no other Pokemon competitor other than maybe Digimon, which is not really anything like Pokemon. This shows that because of that, they could do whatever they want and get away with it, and everyone is just going to be okay with it. And I'm not okay with it. I'm not okay with how Pokemon is going. The trajectory of Pokemon doesn't look bright to me, especially when you come back from like when I was a kid, when I was growing up. Pokemon was innovative. It was trying new things. It kept constantly trying to do something different. And when you have the games that are on GameCube that look 10 times better than what they've released on Switch, which is a more powerful console, then yeah, I'm kind of upset about that, because you had so many different things going on with the GameCube. You had the GameCube games. So you had Pokemon Gale of Darkness and you had Pokemon Coliseum. And during that time, you're also getting games like Fire Red, Leaf Green, Emerald, Ruby, Sapphire. These games also were on Game Boy Advance, but they were making attachments for your GameCube so that way you could trade between the Gale of Darkness game as well as Pokemon Coliseum with Pokemon on your Fire Red, Leaf Green, and Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald games. And they had cards coming out during that time where you could attach a card reader to your Game Boy and you could use the cards in a meaningful way to add to the experience. And we don't get anything like that anymore. It is just the same formula over and over and over again. And I'm sad to see that. I want them to do better. That's why they're on this list. Not because they're bad, but because there is no competition for them, and so they're getting really comfortable. Number 8, the Bayonetta 3 voice actress. So Helena Taylor is the original voice actress for Bayonetta, and it came out that the reason why she wasn't in Bayonetta 3 was because they fired her. And the reason why they fired her is because she wanted more money than what they were paying her. And so she came out and said that they only paid her $4,000 for her role in Bayonetta, and that this is not a livable wage, and that this is that she's the voice of the character, that she is the character, and that people will not buy the game because if they go and move on without her. But that was not the case, because we find out that, hey, you know what? They hired someone else, Jennifer Hale, which is one of the greatest voice actresses of all time, female chef there, to replace her and do the voice. And I don't think anyone really noticed. But the thing is that Helena Taylor lied. She lied about how much they were paying her. In fact, they offered her $15,000 for the role. And she's even said in interviews that it only takes her about a day or two worth of acting to actually do all of the voice lines for the game. And whenever you look her up on IMDb, she has no other voice credit. So it's not like she's using Bayonetta as a means for a living. And she's over here complaining about that and using it as a way to say that she's not getting paid enough and that she can't support her family because of this, when that's not your choice. That's not your main revenue scheme at all. It is, and it's pretty sad that she had to go and lie, and this discredits her and discredits a lot of what she has to say because of the fact that she blatantly came out and lied about it. And what sucks is that she probably does have a good point, that she is probably the voice of the character, that she could have asked for more money, but because of the way she went about it and trying to get people to campaign to not buy Bayonetta 3, that looks really terrible on her part. And it seems like she's probably not going to get work in the industry ever again because of the way she was acting. Number 7 is Morbius. It's Morbin time. This movie was such a freaking fail, man. Oh my gosh. So this movie, I probably should have put it higher on this list because this movie is actually just freaking just bad. It is a bad movie. It's not good by any means. And like, what sucks about this is like, I was kind of hoping that when the reviews came out, a lot of people were just saying this movie is bad, not to go see it. And I was thinking, okay, this is probably going to be one of those scenarios where the movie is so bad that it's good. And in fact, no, the movie is just plain bad. There is no scene in here where I'm laughing at because I think it's so bad, except for one, which is Matt Smith dancing, which is just so weird and off-putting. But this movie just doesn't do anything right. And Jared Leto was just, he was just phoning it in. Everyone involved in this movie is just phoning it in. And the end credit scene to try to unite the Spider-Man universe that Sony is trying to make with Venom and with Vulture and all them making the Sinister Six, is just not very good. And we've seen what Sony can do, and it's not handled very well. We saw the Amazing Spider-Man movies. We know that those movies aren't very good. We saw Venom. We also know those movies aren't very good. And now we see Morbius, and we know that's not very good. So Sony doesn't know how to control these characters and actually needs the help of people like Kevin Feige to actually help and direct and try to push this series forward. But Morbius, it's not Morbin time. Don't waste your time with Morbius. Number 6, Halo Infinite. Now, Halo Infinite came out at the tail end of 2021, so I know that it doesn't really count as a 2022 thing, but the reason why I put it on this list is because of the post-launch support that we never really got until now. Now we are actually getting content, which is really awesome. We have Forge, we have co-op, and they are going to start to come out with a regular cadence for their seasons. So it's great that they're finally catching up, but it might be too little too late at this point. We'll see. We're still in that weird limbo area where we're trying to figure that out. But the thing is, Halo Infinite in its launch was absolutely terrible. The game launched, and I'm going to tell you right now, the base game is phenomenal. The way the guns play, the way the characters move, the grappling hook is probably one of the best additions to Halo in a very long time, and I actually love that addition. I hope they don't remove it, and I just want to see more of it. And I like that they kind of went to a more open world type mission structure, kind of akin to the earlier Halo game with Halo Combat Evolved, where it was semi-open world and how you approached those missions was how you wanted to play the game. But so there's a lot of good things about it. But the bad thing is that this game is a free-to-play multiplayer game that's supposed to be a live service game with cosmetics, with microtransactions, and there is nothing there. They just demolished anything that they could do going forward with the amount of bullshit that they just implemented into Halo Infinite. They launched with like 2 maps that you played over and over and over again. They got so repetitive and so boring. They didn't have any custom playlists. They didn't have the most popular playlists. They couldn't even add playlists because they were struggling with the UI, and they weren't adding any support. And the prices for the skins were astronomical compared to other games similar to it, and you're getting less. And with not being able to swap out the Spartan cores, and so you couldn't really customize the character that you wanted to, but the bots that you played with could customize their armor core however they wanted and swap different pieces that you could even do yourself. So there was a lot wrong with this, and I'm glad that they are focusing more on fixing it and trying to bring that live service aspect to Halo. and hopefully they can gain my interest back. But as it stands right now, I'm still not very interested in it. I might hop back in just because of co-op, but they really fumbled it with this. And I think that if Microsoft decided to delay it another year, I think it would have really benefited them. But sadly, they were just trying to push it out for that 20th anniversary and to sell games and to sell the Xbox during the holiday. Number 5, the state of Marvel. Now, this is really high on the list, and I am doing that on purpose because I really do think that the trajectory in which Marvel is moving with their movies, with their TV shows, is really bad right now. And I don't want to sit here and say that, oh, if they go woke, they go broke, because that's not the issue. And I hate when people on YouTube talk about that and say that the reason why Marvel is doing so bad is because they're going woke, which is completely false. That's a false narrative, and they're only doing that for views and clicks. But I think the real reason why Marvel is stumbling right now is because they don't really have a good direction that they're trying to move to. And we've seen that with the recent releases of their movies. Even going back to last year in 2021, we saw Black Widow, which they brought back a character who's dead in the MCU. And so we all know that this story doesn't matter. Then they did Eternals, which flopped hard and no one really cared about. It's one of the worst reviewed MCU movies. And then they came out with this year with Doctor Strange, which I know a lot of people said they actually liked, but I don't really see why people like that movie so much. In fact, it was very disappointing to me because of the hype around it and like all of the things that could potentially happen and all the cameos that you might see. That I was super excited to see this and see different versions of these characters in the multiverse, maybe having a female Doctor Strange, maybe having a Doctor Strange of a different color, maybe having a Doctor Strange that is a freaking animal or something. I don't know, but every Doctor Strange was just Benedict Cumberbatch being Benedict Cumberbatch. Same with everyone else. Like it's just weird. It's just not, it wasn't what I expected it to be, and I was kind of bummed about it. And Thor Love and Thunder, we all know how that turned out with the goats and just it not being funny and them mishandling Thor, this guy who's had so much trauma go on throughout his journey in the MCU. In fact, he's probably lost more things than anyone else in the MCU, and they turned him into Fat Thor and made fun of him all the time. And that's not how I think you should have treated that character who was dealing with the loss of his mom, the loss of his brother multiple times, the loss of his father, his girlfriend dumping him, his whole entire civilization being destroyed, and on top of all this, dealing with the fact that he feels that he's at fault for what happened at the end of Infinity War. So that's like a lot for someone to handle, and they just throw jokes at it. And I think that is totally not how you handle the character. And again, with Thor Love and Thunder, you see more of the taking things away from Thor and not really getting much in return. And them mishandling these characters and not really understanding the overall theme of what made the MCU so successful in the first phases is very apparent here. And I wish that they would have continued with that trajectory and they would have continued to have a plan moving forward, because this phase was honestly a waste of time. And the only thing that I really enjoyed was Spider-Man No Way Home and Shang-Chi. But there's nothing like what they did with phase 1, 2, and 3, the Infinity Saga, and seeing from Iron Man to Endgame, all of that was a nicely told story, and that is my MCU. Also, they need to work on their CGI. The fact that they're just pushing out so many projects is really causing the CGI to look really bad, because they're not giving enough time to the people there to actually go and do something about it, to work, to take their time and focus on making these movies look good. I don't understand how something like Lord of the Rings from 2001 looks so good. Like you can make CGI last a really long time if you take the time to make it right. And they're not really doing that. They're just rushing these projects out. And now there's rumors that they're going to be restructuring phase 5 and 6. because of the effects of Phase 4 and how none of their movies are really hitting that $1 billion mark, which they want. So it'll be interesting to see everything going forward. And I am still excited about some of the projects, but at the same time, I'm not as interested in the MCU as I used to. And I wish that was different. Number 4 is pushing Starfield to 2023. Now, obviously, I'm a big advocate of if it's not ready, don't ship it. So at the same time, I'm glad that they moved Starfield back in order to give it more time to polish. But at the same time, this was the game that Xbox fans were really relying on because of the lackluster year that we saw coming into 2022. We knew that Starfield was really the only saving grace for the Xbox brand this year. This could have been the big system seller for the end of the year. I know that Todd Howard likes to make those days really special, like 11/11/2022. But there's other days in 2023 that also sound pretty cool, like 3/23/23 or 2/23/23, whatever you want to do, Howard. There's other dates out there for you, but I just want them to take the time that is necessary to make sure that this game comes out and it's polished, it's fine, and it really makes the Xbox brand look great moving forward, because this is the game that Todd Howard said is a system seller, which is their first time ever really having to deal with that. There's a lot of pressure on them to make this as great as they can, especially since it's a brand new IP and a lot of people want them to focus on things like Elder Scrolls and Fallout. I do personally as well, but that puts a lot of pressure on the team, because what's going to happen is this game's going to come out and a lot of people are going to be comparing it to Elder Scrolls, to Skyrim, to Fallout, and saying like, well, why didn't you guys do this instead? Because this isn't as good as those things. Maybe. We'll see. Hopefully it's good. And it just sucks that this got pushed out at the last minute. And it's really embarrassing when they did an interview and they said like, hey, is this date written in pencil? And then he goes and says, no, it's written in pen. But that ink must have washed off, because it is not releasing in 2022. Number 3, Sony trying to cancel the ABK deal. Now, this is the reason why I put this in here, and the reason why I consider it as a fail, because not because of the whole idea of Sony trying to protect gamers, as they like to say, but the fact that in order to protect the gamers, Sony is going and making themselves look so bad. They're lying through their teeth. They are two-faced completely in this deal, saying one thing to the FTC and saying another thing to employees. And the fact that they are doing everything in their power to try and prevent this deal from happening by having people fly out to these regulators and talking to them face and face to discuss like how this could potentially be an issue, and how that they fear Game Pass, they fear Xbox, even though that they're the top dog in gaming, and by a large margin by that. It just looks bad. And not only that, right? Not only are they trying to lie and make themselves look weak, but they're also throwing their own teams under the bus by saying that no matter what, none of their teams could produce something that is the same quality as Call of Duty. And we all know that Call of Duty is a great FPS, right? It is, regardless of whether or not you think it's bad, the gameplay, the movement, the frenetic feeling of Call of Duty is established because of how well that game handles and how well it feels. And they're over here saying that they can't make anything like that when they have titles like Uncharted, Last of Us, God of War, Spider-Man, Ghost of Tsushima, and the list goes on and on. And all these games that they released are games that people consider some of the best games of all time. And you're telling me that you guys can't compete? It's just so bad. I don't like that look. They just look so gross and grimy. I don't like it. Stop doing it. So that's why Sony is so high on this list, just because they're groveling to people to try to make them look even better than they're just trying to make themselves look good. Number 2. Oh man, if you thought the state of Marvel was bad, look at the state of DC. This DC is literally a complete shit show. And it is really reached an all-time peak of shittery during 2022 with things like the release of Black Adam and them fumbling that release terribly, and The Rock coming out and lying about all of that, all of like how successful it really is, and them restructuring DC as a whole and pretty much tearing down the old regime and bringing in a new set of eyes and rebranding and rebuilding this world. And what I think is the thing that stings the most out of everything is what they did to Henry Cavill. I feel so bad for Henry Cavill because that guy was an awesome Superman. He's gonna be one of my favorites. I think he's better than Brandon Routh. I don't think he's better than Christopher Reeves. I'm a big DC fanatic, so I'm really into this. But this year really drugged me down. If it wasn't for the Batman, I think this probably would have been number one. But the thing about it is, you go and you bring Henry Cavill back, and you bring him in Black Adam, and The Rock was really fighting for that to happen. And he comes back, and then he goes on Instagram and says, hey, he's happy to be back. He has so much news to share, and the future looks bright for Superman. And then a month later, they say, hey, by the way, Henry Cavill's no longer going to play Superman. And that is a huge bummer because he was the best thing about the DCU. They also canned Wonder Woman 3, and everything else has been canceled and shifted. And the only things carrying forward from DCEU is potentially Jason Momoa as Lobo or another DC character, and Peacemaker and Suicide Squad. And oddly enough, that's the stuff that James Gunn has done. So of course, those are the things that he's going to be continuing carrying forward, which is a huge bummer. Because I mean, I did like the Suicide Squad a lot, and I did like Peacemaker, and those things are exactly what fits my humor and speaks to me personally when it comes down to comedy. But at the same time, that's not what I want the DC universe to be. I want it to be like what the DCEU was capable of, but never actually provided. I want a world's finest. I want a Justice League. I want Batman and Superman to sit in the tower that watching over Earth and talking about a freaking end level threat coming. Like, that's what I want. I want that. Come on, give it to me. I want that. And I don't think Robert Pattinson's Batman fits that Batman that is needed for that specific role, and that's why I think they're keeping that separate. DC needs to do better, and at the same time, I'm kind of glad that they're doing this, even though it's really sad to hear about, because when you look at it, right, if you have a car, for example, and if you have a flat tire, you can just replace a tire and you can continue moving on. But when the car's engine is totaled and is just irreparably, you just can't repair it, what do? Do you just go out and buy a brand new engine and put it in there, or do you just get a brand new car? And that's where they're at right now. They're trying to make that decision of, hey, should we get a new car, or should we try to rebuild what is already there? Because it looks nice, but the internals are all messed up. And I think they're going with a new car. Sad to say, but you know, sometimes you just gotta say goodbye to the old car and say thanks for driving me around and for good times, but I need something else moving forward. And I think that's what's going on here. And number one, the biggest fail of 2022 is Xbox's AAA games and their presence in gaming. It was barren. It is honestly just makes me feel terrible as a fan, as someone who built this YouTube channel to go and talk about all things Xbox. And when I build like this YouTube channel and start to talk about things, guess what? I do it during the worst time ever in Xbox's history, which is nothing to talk about. And so I'm just trying my best here. But that's the thing. This is what's crazy about this, is that every single other year in Xbox's life cycle, we've actually had a AAA game, at least one AAA game every year. And this is the first time where there is nothing. And I'm okay with that, right? Like, okay, fine. No AAA games. At least we have Game Pass. At least we have third-party games, right? To satiate that feeling. But that's the thing, is that it's not only that there wasn't any AAA games coming out. There was no Xbox presence. There was no Xbox showcases. There was nothing to get you excited about things that are even coming to Game Pass. Something like Somerville, which I ended up playing not too long ago, like last week. I ended up beating it, but I actually enjoyed that game quite a bit. And it's only like a 2 to 4 hour game. And this game literally just dropped into Game Pass with no word of mouth at all. No one talking about it. Why not? This is a good game. It's a solid game. But Xbox said, sure, it's coming in 2022. We don't know when. Oh, it's ready. Here you guys go. Like, come on. And not only that, but with High on Life. High on Life is probably one of my favorite games of the year. And it has done really successful. But it's not successful because of Xbox. Xbox didn't even talk about this game. This game only did well because of things like TikTok and YouTubers talking about it on the internet and it being passed through word of mouth. And that's a terrible way to handle your service, your Game Pass, the competitor. The only thing that's keeping you afloat this console generation is Game Pass. And you're telling me that you're not going to support it? You're not going to put ads out there? You're not going to tell people about Game Pass? You're not going to tell people about the games that are dropping into your service? You're just going to let it just, there you go, get it if you can. We don't check it. Hey, we don't know if you're going to like it or not. Like, believe in Game Pass. Believe in what it can do. Believe in the games that you're paying for. Like Crossfire X, I get, right? Don't hide that as far away as you can. But when you're talking about something like Somerville, and you're talking about something like A Plague Tale: Innocence or High on Life, you are not mentioning the fact that, hey, guess what, guys, this is coming to Game Pass. Hey, we're gonna have a special showcase that's gonna show some gameplay, or give us a behind the scenes dev report for all I care, just to tell me what's going on here. I need that. That's what I need. And I know that Xbox going into the new year is supposedly gonna be trying their best to make more shows and to have a show to show all the games that are coming out within the first half of 2023. But this year, they failed to do that. This year, you failed to provide AAA games. This year, you failed to have a presence. And this year, you couldn't even support your own Game Pass machine by not even showing it off to people. Why aren't there any ads anywhere about any of this stuff? It blows my mind. And that is the reason why it's number one. This product that I consume every single day is something that is me. It's what I like. It's what I love. It's what I love doing. I love playing Xbox. I love talking about Xbox. But it's kind of hard to talk about Xbox when there's nothing to talk about. And that's the issue. Most of my channel is me talking about what PlayStation is doing. like oh boy, or this ABK deal. Like that's the thing. Like that, I know that the ABK deal is also great news at the beginning of the year. Like, oh man, like look at that, that's cool. And I love talking about acquisitions. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for acquisitions. You can hate me, I understand. Acquisitions are bad for gaming. Blah 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 blah. I've heard it before, but acquisitions are fun to talk about. It's fun to theorize what could possibly happen and what could come to your preferred platform, and the minds that are all involved with making those games try to make something brand new and different. And the ABK deal does give me a lot of hope going forward, because not hope because I get to play Call of Duty on Game Pass, but hope that those developers that are trapped in Call of Duty and making Call of Duty can actually branch away from that and not be focused on that and actually work on different things. Because I want to see what Raven Software can do other than Call of Duty, because we've seen it before and they've done phenomenal work with things like Wolverine and things like Singularity. And I want to see what Infinity Ward could do if it just takes away, as if it just steps away from Call of Duty for a bit. Maybe go and make your own game, make an RPG, make a brand new first-person shooter, like make a sci-fi game, like do something else. Like that's what I want. I want to have those new things. I want Toys for Bob to actually make games that they want to make. they've talked about how they liked working on Spyro. They talked about how they liked working on Crash Bandicoot. Like, if they liked working on those things, let them work on it. Make a Spyro 4, make another Crash game. Like, do something different other than grabbing them and forcing them into Call of Duty. And that's why I'm super hopeful about things like that. But we've been talking about this ABK deal for so long that it just kind of like, I don't even want to cover it anymore. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I just want it to be done. I just want this all to be over. And I'm glad it is going to be over because 2022 is almost done and 2023 is just right around the corner. But that's my video. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that this is a good top 10? Do you think I'm missing something? Or do you guys think that maybe this is a bunch of horse shit? Let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate you guys for stopping by. I appreciate you guys for subscribing. So I can't wait to see what goes on in the new year. And I hope that we all have our New Year resolutions come true and we can maintain that. But I'll be seeing you guys on the next one. And remember, take it easy.